Welcome to the second part of the Game Theory podcast. I just did the rock fingers because this one's going to be awesome. We got a ton of questions on our Facebook page.
Jeremiah, did you know that playing video games actually changes your brain chemistry? It alters the way your brain's chemistry is set up.
I'm gonna fight someone right now, David. Don't make me do this because there's only kids and women in this house.
You have a dog?
I do. That's animal abuse. It's no better.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Man. All right. There was a lot of questions, a lot of really good questions. I don't know what it was, but something about the, I don't know, maybe the influx. We've had a lot of new listeners recently, and also, I don't know. We haven't done a couple of the sections recently. I don't know. A lot of conversation. But here they are in a nutshell, really quick, so you guys can decide if you want to listen to this thing or not. One is there was a study done on the fact that too much screen time. This is out of the UK. Too much screen time is associated with lower GCSE scores, which I guess is their they took them at the 16th on their 16th year. 16th year, 16-year-olds.
Testing.
Yeah, at the end of their junior year or something. They're 16 years old. Is the point. And they looked at those some correlations there. Somebody asked about that and what we thought about it. Second one was there was a man convicted. He was from Idaho who killed 3 people and then said it was his video game addiction that made him do it. Someone wanted some commentary on that. Third, Classcraft is a this guy. He's a teacher and he was also like a web developer or something. I can't remember. The point is he gamified his classroom with kind of like an RPG type theme, and you could be a wizard or a warrior or whatever, and you could level up by taking part in class. Somebody mentioned that and was asking about thoughts. And finally, working on gross violent games can mess with developers, which I thought was also an intriguing topic. So there's a lot to talk about here. But we're gonna try to pump through it pretty quickly.
Yes.
So where do you want to start, man?
Let's start from the top. Let's do the Guardian article about teenagers who are doing worse on their testing from being on the screens too much.
Yeah, we were actually able to pull up this study. It wasn't behind a paywall, so both got to take a gander at it. A lot of people on here. The first author was Kirsten Corder. She does a lot of work in general, but a lot of work on physical activity and how that, what kind of outcomes that has on children.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that was a no-go on this article. It didn't have any correlation with anything. But there you go.
Yeah, this is in the International Journal of Behavioral Nutrition and Physical Activity, and the article's name is Revising on the Run or Studying on the Sofa, Prospective Associations Between Physical Activity, Sedentary Behavior, and Exam Results in British Adolescents. So if you want to read this, once again, it's not behind a paywall, so anyone can read it.
And prospective associations, what that means is that it's associations that have to do with predictions in the future, right? So some future variables. So they measured some things from 14 and 15-year-olds, and then they said, how did they do when they were 16? So it's supposed to guess at some future variable. So that's what they tried here. They used great statistics, which I was glad to see. It wasn't a bullshit study by that, but the methodology, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the methodology?
Well, I was a little confused about, like, first of all, you want to talk about the results so we can see what they found?
Yeah, actually, and I forgot to introduce the methods. So basically, they got a bunch of. Okay, I'll try to do this without showing my hand by showing disgust in places. But okay, so there was physical activity and self-reported sedentary behaviors. Self-reported sedentary behaviors such as screen, TV, internet, computer games, and non-screen behaviors such as homework and reading or whatever, measured in 845 adolescents from 15 to 20 years old. 14 to 15 years old. 20,
right.
And then they also looked at those, and they looked at their academic performance based on their exam points on this GSSC. And they ran a linear regression. I guess that's not necessary, but they looked at mood, BMI, which is body mass index, which is how kind of fat you are, deprivation, sex, season, and school. And they looked at interactions. So they're trying to make predictions based on those things.
Right. And then they're adjusting for those things, so they're kind of controlling for, like the mood and all that stuff, because that could affect your results. Like if you're a depressed kid, it's probably not going to reflect well on your grades, but we're not going to blame that on screen time.
Yeah, which is good. You want to control for those things. Mood, and then how, like if someone's really fat and they're also looking at doing a lot of screen time, that's going to ruin your results because you're going to be like, oh, well, they're actually super intelligent and they did great on the GCSE, so there's no correlation, when in fact there might be. Same thing with like sex, obviously, which is gender, and season in school. Obviously, you don't want people in fall, because kids perform differently in fall than they do spring, and then which schools they're involved in. Some schools are just better.
Right. And these were all from Cambridgeshire and Suffolk, UK, so about kind of in a 60-mile radius of each other.
It does not get more British than that.
Yes, Cambridgeshire and Truffleton on Dumbarton.
London fog.
Lord Chumbleton.
Yes. But yeah, so what they found was that so physical activity didn't seem to have any deleterious or bad or good effects, basically, right?
Right.
But they did see that screen time seemed to really fuck with the scores.
Yeah, a lot. Like even just an hour would lower scores significantly.
And it didn't say per week in general. So, all right, that's basically okay. Then there's an article that comes out. This is the part when the media grabs a hold of it. That's the most difficult part for me to deal with, because what conclusions can you make from that? Like,
well, it's an exploratory study, so it's hard to make very strong conclusions. The conclusions they made were that, screen time was associated with lower academic performance, suggesting that strategies to limit screen behaviors among adolescents may benefit academic performance. So in other words, we're not really sure. It seems to have a negative effect, so you might want to consider limiting it.
That's good. That's the conclusion you should come out with this.
Right.
That's
also the conclusion they put in their article. But what did the media say?
Yeah, and I should preface this. First of all, it wouldn't just benefit you to take a skeptic's point of view on this just because, that sounds a little fishy that you looked at one variable and then you controlled for some good variables. That's smart. But you didn't control for parenting style or like parents in the house or how often your parents work or other activities like or other hobbies. Like you didn't control for any of that, which we do here in America quite a bit, at least in my field. Or in America, in the same field, but over here we measure for that stuff, and we found that there's almost no effect. You can game up to 20 hours a week and have no deleterious effects whenever you control for those sorts of variables. Like, well, are you playing video games because you got a single parent who works 2 jobs? In which case, there's a lot going on there more than just them doing screen time. It's the fact that your parents can't make sure you do your homework. They can't make sure you get to bed on time. They can't overlook your nutrition. There's a lot of things that are going to affect you. Yeah, and they didn't control for any of that here, which makes so from a skeptical point of view, you shouldn't probably put a whole lot into this. And from a scientific point of view, from the literature, this is my specialty, and don't put a lot into this. But the media went crazy. They were just like, "Well, screen time kills your academic performance. Take away screen time now." I just settle down with the screen time. The screen time is not good. It's okay to have a hobby, but just like anything else, if your kid's outside practicing baseball all day, not cool.
Right. So then basically it seems like what they're recommending is that you should limit screen time, but don't completely forbid it. And just sort of, they suggest better parenting methods, encouraging a balance of screen time and studying.
Definitely. And what we found is in America is that any of these claims that like this from our literature, from all the literature in the field so far, is that it's not about what you're doing, it's about what you're not doing with video games. So you can play as many as you want as long as you're also getting physical activity, you're getting nutrition, you're getting your homework done, and whatnot. And obviously there's an upper limit on that. I wouldn't say that you should let your kids watch screen all day.
Right. Yeah, it's not surprising that the kids who were studying got better grades and the kids who were on their screens a lot got worse grades. I'm wondering if it's just a factor of what are you doing when you're not, at school, how much of that is studying and how much of that is not studying.
Yeah, and I mean, whenever you get to upper levels of screen time anyway, we're talking about parents who are often allowing their kids to do whatever they want, or they don't understand development, and there's just a lot going on there that they didn't measure. So I would just be careful on that.
Right. But so basically be a good parent. If your kids are just coming home and being on a screen until they go to bed, they're probably going to fail. And that's probably partly because of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And also just from my point of view, or not my point of view, from my research, there's no reason to put any stock into this other than, okay, good. So let's limit screen time because it's just like in Freakonomics. For some reason, people who are rich mow their lawns more frequently. We can come up with a ton of theories why, but we do know it's correlated. But it doesn't mean if you go mow your lawn, you're going to become rich. So
right.
Don't put a lot into this. There's something going on that also correlates with a lot of screen time that doesn't appear to actually affect.
Yeah, I doubt that the screen is actually killing their brain cells, but it's not like if they turned off their iPads and started playing board games nonstop, their grades would improve. I mean, maybe, but they didn't test for that or control for it. So, yeah, it's what I would have predicted. Parents who let their kids have that much screen time probably have kids who have not developed the study skills necessary to succeed.
Right. Yep. But all right. Well, I guess we're gonna pause the podcast for a little bit. Dave, you got something you got to do, right?
Yes, I will be back in about 30 minutes. We'll pick up with our next story.
All right. So we'll see you guys in about 30 minutes.